I got a call. Your niece says she doesn't know who you are. My sister cut me off years ago over nothing. So I sent her daughter a birthday gift, a scrapbook titled What Your Mom Won't Tell You. Page 1 was a wedding invite she tore up. The call came during lunch. Half a sandwich still in my hand, crumbs in my lap, email open on my work computer. Hi, is this Amelia? The woman asked. Her voice was soft but hesitant. Yeah, I said, brushing off crumbs and muting a Zoom meeting I wasn't really paying attention to. This is Ms. Carter, your niece's teacher. I just wanted to check something. Lizzie mentioned today that she doesn't know who you are. I'm sorry, it just seemed odd. Because you sent a birthday package? She seemed confused. My heart stopped. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. Not really. My sister, Harper, 36, female, cut me off 5 years ago, out of nowhere. And I mean completely. No texts, no calls, no explanation. One day we were planning her baby shower and laughing about the ridiculous games people played at them, and then boom, blocked on everything like I was some psycho ex. I found out she'd had her baby, my niece, Lizzie, through a tagged photo on Facebook from our cousin's account. No announcement, no hospital visits, no pictures, not even a goddamn "it's a girl" text. I cried, not because she shut me out, that came later, but because I realized I'd just been erased. And Harper? She was the kind of person who could really erase someone, like surgically. I tried reaching out, letters, gifts, emails. One time I even sent a handmade quilt with Lizzie's name stitched on it. No response. A mutual friend later told me Harper gave it to Goodwill. For the longest time, I told myself I must have done something awful, something unforgivable, and just forgot. But I replayed everything. All our childhood, our fights, our shared trauma, our midnight whisper sessions under the covers when we couldn't sleep, the time I took the fall for her skipping school, the way I hugged her after her miscarriage like her grief was mine too. Nothing explained this. Until 2 years ago, when my therapist said, Amelia, sometimes people cut others out not because you broke them, but because you were the last witness to who they were before they became someone else. That line gutted me. Because I had known her, all of her. Which brings me back to the call. Lizzie had just turned 7. I wasn't invited to her party, of course not, but I still sent her a gift, one Harper would never approve of. It was a scrapbook, thick, hardbound, wrapped in gold tissue paper and tied with a blue satin ribbon. On the cover, I'd embossed in silver foil, What Your Mom Won't Tell You. And page 1, a wedding invite. Specifically, my wedding invite. The one Harper tore up in front of me 5 years ago while screaming that I was selfish for not choosing her as my maid of honor. She wanted to walk me down the aisle after our dad died. I told her no. It wasn't meant to be a big deal. I just had someone else in mind. Someone who raised me when mom bailed. My godmother, Carla. Harper went nuclear. Screaming, crying, slapping decorations off the table. She knocked over a cake stand and stormed out, dragging a whole tray of finger sandwiches with her. 3 weeks later, I was blocked. And that was that. So I made a book. Call it petty. Call it therapeutic. But I needed Lizzie to know I wasn't some random stranger with her last name. I filled that scrapbook with the truth. My truth. Page 2, photos of us at the lake as kids. Her mom in a yellow sundress, smiling so hard her nose crinkled. Something Lizzie does now too. Page 3, a letter I wrote the day Harper found out she was pregnant. Never sent it, but I kept it. I included that too. Because if Harper was going to rewrite history, I wanted to make damn sure Lizzie at least saw the original draft. And now, she didn't know who I was. I sat there staring at my sandwich. Cold, soggy, forgotten. Oh, I said into the phone. She doesn't know me. Got it. I didn't cry. Not then. But the scrapbook? That was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, lazy circles. My phone was face down on the nightstand, vibrating every so often with texts I didn't read. I knew who they were from before I looked. My aunt. A cousin. Even Harper's ex, Matthew, who I hadn't heard from since the baby shower incident. Word had spread. Fast. Apparently, Lizzie opened the scrapbook at her birthday party. In front of everyone. I didn't expect that. I'd imagined her unwrapping it quietly, maybe flipping through it alone in her room, fingers smudging the corners. But nope. Harper, control freak that she is, must have let her open gifts with a crowd for that picture-perfect Instagram moment. And there it was. The book with the silver lettering. The title that might as well have been a Molotov cocktail lobbed straight into her curated pastel-colored life. What Your Mom Won't Tell You. And page 1? A jagged tear through the middle of a wedding invite, taped together with care. The invite Harper ripped up 5 years ago, screaming that I chose betrayal over blood. Matthew, her ex, Lizzie's dad, told me later Harper turned beet red, grabbed the scrapbook out of Lizzie's hands, and stormed into the kitchen. Left a room full of 7-year-olds and moms blinking like they'd just seen a car crash. Lizzie, bless her, asked one of the moms, Why did Aunt Amelia write me a book if I don't have an Aunt Amelia? She asked that, out loud. I don't know what hurt more, those words, or knowing Harper made sure that's how she saw me. Matthew called me around 1 a.m. His voice was tight, nervous. What the hell did you send her? He asked, but not in an angry way. More like someone standing in the rubble of a house fire asking where the gas line was. It was the truth, I said. He didn't respond for a while. Then, you should have seen her face. I've never seen Harper that unhinged in public. Really? I said. You two dated. He laughed. Software, sad. Fair. But this was different. She was shaking. That made me pause. Shaking. Because of me. Not because I'd hurt her. God knows I'd already done enough tiptoeing around that minefield. No, she was shaking because her carefully constructed narrative cracked. Right there. In front of cake and balloons and a handmade banner that read, Lucky 7 Lizzie. I asked him if Lizzie was okay. She's confused, he said. She kept asking who you are. I didn't know what to say. That gutted me. And I told him that. I don't even remember falling asleep, but I woke up the next morning to a voicemail. Harper. No greeting. No hello. Just, you absolute piece of trash. How dare you? How dare you use my daughter to get back at me? You always made everything about yourself, Amelia. Always. You couldn't stand not being the center of attention. Well, congratulations. Everyone's talking about you now. I hope it was worth it. Don't ever come near my family again. We're done. I played it twice. 3 times. Sat there in my kitchen with a cold mug of tea and puffy eyes, listening to my sister's rage pour through the speaker. You'd think after 5 years of silence it wouldn't hit that hard. But it did. Because no matter how much therapy you go through, how many boundaries you set, there's still a piece of you that wants your big sister to love you again. But Harper doesn't love like that. Harper loves like a spotlight, warm until you step out of frame. I texted Matthew. I'm not going to say sorry, but I didn't mean to drag Lizzie into a war. He replied, too late for that. But maybe it's time she knew there was a war. That stuck with me all day. Because he was right, and I wasn't done. The messages started rolling in that afternoon. At first, it was distant relatives. Polite, fake neutral tones. Hey, just saw what happened. Everything okay? Translation. I heard Harper went nuclear. What's your side of the gossip? Then came the guilt trippers. Maybe that wasn't the best way to handle things, Amelia. Did you really have to do that at a child's birthday party? Lizzie's too young for this drama. Too young for drama? Number 2 young to be lied to. I didn't reply to any of them. And then I got one from Harper's friend Jen, someone I hadn't heard from since she drunkenly confessed at Harper's baby shower that she thought Harper was a little intense and that she hoped I was keeping her grounded. Amelia, I saw the book. I think you were brave. Brave. That word hit me weird, like I was suddenly the protagonist in a war I hadn't declared. But yeah, maybe it was brave, or maybe it was desperate, or maybe it was just years of swallowing shit finally curdling in my chest. Harper had spent the last 5 years rewriting me. She made me a villain in her carefully curated story. The unstable sister, the drama queen, the selfish one who couldn't support her through her pregnancy. She left out the part where I drove her to every prenatal appointment when Matthew was MIA, or how I stayed up till 3 a.m., painting Lizzie's nursery because Harper kept changing her mind about the theme, or how I skipped my own job interview to hold her hand when she thought she was miscarrying again. She erased it all. And what did I do that was so unforgivable? I said no. That's it. I told her no. I wouldn't let her walk me down the aisle instead of Carla. I wouldn't rewrite my own story just to center hers. And she lost it. And now? Now she was burning the house down because her daughter got a taste of something real. Not curated. Not cropped and filtered for social media. Just real. The scrapbook was 12 pages. After the wedding invite, I filled it with the pieces Harper had hidden. There was the ultrasound photo she ripped in half when Matthew showed up drunk at her 3rd appointment. The dried-out rose I saved from our dad's funeral, pressed flat in a tissue. The one Harper refused to take home because grief was ugly and smelled like dust. A photo of the 2 of us in high school, matching shirts, bad hair, eyes full of hope. And then the letters. I wrote Lizzie one for every year she missed having me in her life, tucked each one in a little envelope labeled by age. To Lizzie, age 3. To Lizzie, age 4, and so on. Short, simple, no hate, just love and a promise. I'm your aunt. I've always been here, even when you didn't know it. It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was truth armor. But Harper? She took it like a sword. That night, someone egged my car. I don't have proof, but I know. Yolk dripping down the windshield like some twisted metaphor. Someone had gone to the effort, left the shells on the hood, not thrown from the street, placed. I parked in the garage after that. But the real gut punch came the next morning. A knock on the door. Lizzie, 7 years old, standing there with Matthew, holding the scrapbook like it was radioactive. Hi, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Are you really my aunt? I couldn't speak, because my sister may have thrown me out of her life like garbage, but her daughter? She brought me back in. I knelt down so I could meet Lizzie's eyes, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Matthew hovered behind her, awkward and quiet, like a chaperone who hadn't read the field trip instructions. He didn't say a word, just gave me a small, almost guilty nod. Permission, I guess. Yeah, I whispered, my voice catching in my throat. I'm your aunt. Lizzie looked down at the scrapbook in her hands, then back at me. Why didn't Mommy tell me about you? That question splintered something in me. Not a sharp crack, just a slow, aching fracture. I glanced up at Matthew, hoping, begging, he'd jump in. He didn't. So I told her the truth, or at least the version her heart could handle. Sometimes grown-ups have fights, and sometimes they don't know how to fix them. But I always wanted to know you. I always remembered your birthdays. I just wasn't allowed to say hello. She stared at me for a second. Then, like a lightning strike out of nowhere, she wrapped her arms around my neck, tight, fierce, like she was trying to make up for 7 years in a single hug. I held her. God, I held her like I could anchor time. Matthew eventually cleared his throat and said they couldn't stay long. Harper doesn't know we're here. No surprise there. He asked to speak privately, so I sent Lizzie to the kitchen with a juice box and my old collection of Disney DVDs, stuff I'd kept in a dusty bin for reasons I couldn't admit to myself. Matthew closed the door behind him and leaned against the wall, arms crossed like he was trying to protect himself from his own decisions. She's not well, he said. I know that's not a surprise, but it's getting worse. He explained that Harper had started unraveling in ways even he couldn't excuse anymore. Screaming matches with strangers, locking Lizzie in her room for quiet time that lasted hours, and spiraling paranoia that everyone was turning Lizzie against her. She screamed at me for 3 hours after the party, he said, voice flat. Told me I was betraying her by not snatching that book and burning it. I asked why he hadn't done exactly that. He hesitated. Because the truth wasn't ugly. It was warm. It was real. Lizzie held it like it mattered. Then he said something I didn't expect. She wants to see you again. My heart jolted. Harper won't allow that. She doesn't have to. And just like that, I realized what he was offering. Not custody, not visitation, alliance. We made a plan. Carefully, quietly. Twice a month, I'd meet Lizzie at the library. Public, safe, neutral territory. Harper would be told it was tutoring time. And technically, it wouldn't be a lie. I'd teach Lizzie how to read between the lines, how to hold on to the truth even when someone tried to shred it. The first visit was cautious, tense. Lizzie brought the scrapbook with her, like a relic she wasn't ready to let go of. She pointed to the photo of me and Harper at the lake and asked if we were best friends. Once, I said. She looked confused. What happened? I smiled sadly. Sometimes people stop being best friends, but that doesn't mean they stop being family. By our fourth visit, she stopped asking questions about the past and started bringing stories of her own, things she didn't feel safe saying at home. How Harper watched her sleep, how she cried quietly in the bathroom when Harper told her everyone leaves eventually, just like Aunt Amelia did. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but I couldn't, because I knew what had to come next. The scrapbook wasn't the end. It was just page 1. And page 2? That was revenge. Update 1. First off, thank you for the messages, the DMs, the support, and even the spicy burn her house down comments. Y'all are a mix of therapists and arsonists, and I love it. Some of you asked if I felt guilty for dragging Lizzie into this mess. Yes, deeply. But here's the thing. I didn't put her there. Harper did. The moment she decided truth was something to gatekeep, all I did was pull back the curtain. And you know what? Lizzie deserved that. She deserved me. But anyway, here's what's happened since the last post. Harper found out. Not about the library meetups. Those are still flying under her radar for now. But about Matthew siding with me. She showed up at his place at 10:30 p.m. last Friday. Barefoot, crying, in a bathrobe, screaming through the door loud enough the neighbors came out to watch. I know what you're doing. You're letting her poison our daughter. You think this makes you the good guy? He didn't let her in. Just told her calmly through the door that she needed to leave before Lizzie woke up. So what did Harper do? She threw a rock through his front window. Yeah, a full-on brick-through-glass moment. Classic rom-com behavior if your rom-com was directed by Satan. Police were called. She wasn't arrested, but there's now a report. And the best part? Matthew finally filed for primary custody. He sent me a copy of the paperwork. I nearly dropped my coffee when I saw it. In it, he cited emotional instability, documented history of irrational behavior, and repeated attempts to sever familial bonds between the child and known relatives. Known relatives equals me. Y'all, my name is literally in the custody petition, for the right reasons. So yeah, we're in the thick of it now. Harper, naturally, is retaliating the only way she knows how. Facebook. She's posted 3 rants so far. One said I infiltrated her daughter's life like a cancer. Another claimed Matthew was being emotionally seduced by me. The third was a vague post about snakes in the grass who pretend to be family, accompanied by a stock photo of a woman crying in a field. A field, y'all. Where does she find this shit? I haven't responded. Not once. Not even a reaction emoji. But I did mail something else. Because you guys gave me an idea. You said if Harper wanted to bury the truth so badly, maybe it was time to dig all of it up. So I made a second scrapbook. Not for Lizzie, for Harper. But this one's different. It's not sweet. It's not gentle. It's every message she ever sent me since cutting me off. I kept them. All of them. Even the deleted ones. Every, "You ruined my life." Every, "I hope you die alone." Every screenshot of her telling our cousins I was unwell and needed help. I printed them on heavy, glossy pages, one per spread, each captioned with the date and time, bound in black leather. On the front, silver foil again. But this time the title is simple, "What Your Daughter Might Learn Someday." And I mailed it certified. Return receipt requested. She hasn't signed for it yet. But the USPS says it's out for delivery. I wonder if she'll open it. Or maybe she'll tear it up, just like the wedding invite. Doesn't matter. Because this time, I took pictures. The day Harper signed for the package, I knew. Not because she texted, God number. I was still very much blocked, but because the silence got louder. No Facebook meltdowns, no cryptic memes, no late-night screaming at Matthew's front door. Nothing. That's how Harper works when she's plotting. She disappears, goes quiet, starts puppeteering from the shadows, and I could feel it, like static in the air before a thunderstorm. Meanwhile, Lizzie was thriving. She'd started writing me little notes, folded like origami, tucked into library books, or slipped into my purse when she thought I wouldn't notice. One said, "You smell like cookies." I like that. Another, "I wish you came to my school thing." Mommy said no, but I told her my tummy hurt so I didn't go either. That one broke me. I sat in my car for 20 minutes after reading it, sobbing into my steering wheel like some deranged Hallmark movie protagonist. Because what kind of world are we in where a 7-year-old has to lie just to avoid betraying the one adult who doesn't make her feel invisible? I started keeping all her notes in a shoebox, just like I used to do with Harper's when we were kids, back when we were still us. And then the storm finally hit. 2 weeks after I mailed the second scrapbook, my landlord texted, "Hey, just a heads up. A woman came by today asking if you were still living here. Didn't give a name. Said she was your sister. Left after I told her you weren't home." My stomach dropped. Harper knew where I lived. She always had. But she hadn't used that knowledge in years. Until now. The next morning, I found my welcome mat soaked in bleach. Not a typo. Bleach. The concrete was stained. The mat was ruined. And someone had scratched the word liar into the side of my mailbox. I didn't report it. What would I even say? That my estranged sister, who I had no proof was even in the neighborhood, had vandalized my porch because I exposed her to her own daughter? I took photos. Added them to the folder. My little revenge archive. But I knew it was time to go nuclear. Because Harper was spiraling, and spirals only end two ways, impact or escape. So I chose impact. I sent a letter to Lizzie's school counselor. Nothing dramatic. Just a polite, carefully worded message explaining that I was a relative, that I had been in limited contact with Lizzie, and that I had some concerns about her emotional well-being, particularly her sense of isolation, her fear of upsetting her mother, and her pattern of self-silencing. I cited no custody drama, no insults, just facts. And I attached one of Lizzie's notes, the one where she said she hid in the bathroom to cry so Harper wouldn't see the sad. The counselor responded the next day. She thanked me, said she'd already noticed signs of anxiety, that this confirmed a lot, that yes, it was being escalated. That day, Lizzie didn't show up for our library session. That evening, Matthew texted me. She knows. Apparently, Harper got a call from the school asking her to come in for a meeting. They didn't tell her what it was about, just that it was concerning a family matter. She put 2 and 2 together real fast. I don't know what she said when she found out I'd gone to the school, but I do know that 2 hours later, she left a voicemail on Matthew's phone, screaming, unhinged, slurring her words like she'd taken something or drank too much. "I will ruin her. Do you hear me, Matt? She thinks she can steal my daughter? She has no idea who she's messing with." That voicemail? He forwarded it to the school. And to his lawyer. It's being filed with the custody case. And me? I've already started making the final scrapbook, the one I'll give Lizzie when she turns 18. The title? Everything You Were Never Meant to Know, but Deserved to. 3 days later, Harper showed up at my job. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Harper came to my actual workplace, a nonprofit where I've spent the last 6 years helping at-risk teens find mentorship and stability. You'd think someone who preaches about protecting her daughter from emotional manipulation would know not to bring her chaos into a youth center. But logic left the building with Harper a long time ago. She marched right past the front desk, ignoring the sign-in sheet like rules didn't apply to her, and found me mid-session with 3 teens working on college applications. The door slammed open like some B-movie villain entrance. "There you are," she hissed. "You absolute snake." The kids froze. One of them actually laughed because they thought it was a prank or performance art or something. Out, I said to the kids, voice steady. Go to the art room. Now. They scrambled. One looked back like they weren't sure if they should call security. I stood up, slow, deliberate, kept my hands visible, calm voice. Years of working with traumatized teens had taught me how to de-escalate, but nothing in my toolkit applied to this brand of unhinged. You need to leave, I said. She didn't. Instead, she pulled a plastic bag from her purse and dumped the contents onto the floor. Scraps of paper, torn envelopes, some glossy pages, all shredded. Some looked like parts of the first scrapbook. Others were Lizzie's notes. My chest constricted. You want to play dirty? She said, her voice rising. Let's play. You want to expose me? Humiliate me in front of everyone? Well, guess what, Amelia? She took a step forward. I flinched. You don't get to have her. She's not your daughter. She's mine. Mine. Do you understand? You don't matter. You're a footnote. A sad, bitter footnote. I looked down at the shredded paper around my boots. She'd destroyed the notes, the drawings, the letters Lizzie had snuck me, things she wasn't supposed to have ever seen, which meant Matthew's place. She must have gone through Lizzie's backpack, maybe even her room. I could feel the burn in my eyes starting, but I refused to cry in front of her. You went through her things, I said, barely above a whisper. Of course I did, she spat. I'm her mother. Unlike you, I don't keep secrets. I don't poison her mind. I protect her. That's when my boss walked in, Lisa, head of the nonprofit. She's a calm, even-keeled woman, but the second she saw Harper screaming in my face with paper scattered across the floor, she went full mama bear. Ma'am, you need to leave right now. She's harassing my daughter, Harper shouted, turning to Lisa. She's a predator. I swear to God I thought she was going to say, groomer next. That's the level of unhinged we were operating on. But Lisa just walked to the phone on the wall. I'm calling the police, she said calmly. You can explain your concerns to them. That got Harper moving. She cursed, loudly, in front of two teens who had peeked back in, and stormed out, knocking over a chair on her way. I didn't move. I just stood there, breathing. My hands were shaking, my knees felt weak. But more than anything, I was furious. She had no idea what she'd just done. Because here's the thing. I had a camera in my office. One of those tiny corner security cams, standard for when we're alone with kids for mentoring purposes. It caught everything. Her screaming, her accusations, her destroying Lizzie's notes, and the look in her eyes, that wild, desperate, cornered look, it was going to haunt her in court. That night, I forwarded the footage to Matthew's lawyer, and the next morning, temporary emergency custody was granted. Lizzie didn't go home to Harper that weekend. She went to Matthew's, and the second she saw me on the porch, she ran into my arms like she'd been waiting her whole life. I brought a new letter, she whispered, smiling. And this one, I laminated. Update 2. I didn't think I'd cry in a courtroom. I've seen people cry in court before, on TV, on YouTube, in those viral clips where someone finally gets their kid back or stands up to an abuser. But me? I always figured I'd be composed. Dignified? Unshakable? Nope. The judge read the decision aloud and my knees almost gave out. Matthew was awarded full legal custody. Harper, after 2 psych evaluations, countless documented outbursts, and that unforgettable stunt at my work, was granted supervised visitation only, pending long-term therapy and court-ordered parental training. It's done. The war is over. I know I should feel relief. And I do. God, I do. But what I didn't expect was the grief. Because as much as I hated her, as much as she burned every bridge and then pissed on the ashes, Harper was still my sister, my first friend, the person who used to braid my hair before school and sneak candy under our pillows on nights we couldn't sleep. And now? She won't even look at me. She was in the courtroom, of course, but she sat stiff, silent, chewing the inside of her cheek, her eyes fixed on the floor like the words couldn't touch her if she didn't acknowledge them. Not when the judge called her behavior erratic, not when the footage of her screaming and shredding paper was played, not when Lizzie's therapist gently explained how much calmer she'd been since moving in with Matthew. She didn't flinch until Lizzie spoke. It was brief, carefully guided. The court-approved child specialist sat with her, helped her read the little statement she wrote. I like living with Daddy. I like seeing Aunt Amelia. I feel happy now. Harper made a sound then, a sharp, guttural thing that made half the room go still. But it was too late. After the ruling, Harper stormed out without a word. Matthew and I stood in the hallway, just blinking at each other like 2 soldiers who suddenly didn't hear gunfire anymore. He pulled me into the kind of hug that says we did it without needing words. And Lizzie? She tugged my hand and said, "Want to come see my new room?" So we did. She's got posters now. Fairy lights. Her bookshelf is full. Scrapbooks, of course, and framed photos. One is of me and her at the park. We're both holding ice cream, mid-laugh, a smear of chocolate on her cheek. It's not perfect. She still has nightmares sometimes. Still checks the closet like she's expecting monsters. But she's smiling more, And every day, she writes a sentence in a little green journal. Her therapist calls it emotional mapping. Sometimes the sentences are silly. I saw a worm on the sidewalk and named him Kevin. Sometimes they're harder. Mom said I'm bad, but I know I'm not. But yesterday she wrote, I feel safe. And I think maybe that's the best revenge of all. Not the scrapbook, not the court battle, not even the breakdown Harper had when she realized she couldn't spin this into another sob story. No, the real revenge is that Lizzie got to grow up with the truth, and the truth loved her back. The first Sunday after the custody ruling, Lizzie showed me something she'd hidden inside a hollowed-out book. It was one of the older ones from her mom's house, Charlotte's Web, ironically. Inside, torn pages, drawings, photos she'd smuggled out of her room before the move. Most of it was just kid stuff, stick figures, scribbled hearts, a glittery sticker that said, best day ever. But one thing stopped me cold, a photo of Harper and me from our dad's retirement party 10 years ago. We were smiling, arms wrapped around each other, both wearing matching cherry red dresses we'd bought on a whim. That day had been full of jokes, ribs on the grill, and beer bottles clinking. No fights, no bitterness. I remember looking at that photo once and thinking, this is what love looks like when it grows up. And now it looked like a gravestone. I kept it, Lizzie whispered. Even though Mommy said I wasn't allowed to, I didn't ask why Harper forbade it. I already knew. Because in that photo, we were sisters. And sisters? Sisters remember. Sisters contradict the narrative. I hugged Lizzie and told her I was proud of her for saving it, for saving any of it. Later that night, when she was asleep and Matthew had gone to pick up groceries, I stood in her room just staring at her bookshelf. One shelf in particular had all 3 scrapbooks. The original, What Your Mom Won't Tell You. The second one I gave to Harper. And the final one, titled simply, Truth. The one I built after the court date. The one I filled not with pain, but with Lizzie's memories. Her first drawing of me, stick figure aunt with big earrings, a Polaroid of us in front of the courthouse, her holding a sign that said, Strong Girls Win, a receipt from our favorite bookstore with her name scribbled on the back. Tiny, ordinary moments, but all real, all hers, because she deserved to hold her own story now. Not the censored version Harper tried to feed her, not the lies, not the absence, and it hit me. This was what Harper feared all along. Not me, not Matthew, not the courts, but remembrance. The kind you can't erase. The kind that comes back in drawings, journals, whispered bedtime questions like, why did Mommy say you were gone? That kind of remembrance? It survives. Even bleach can't touch it. But of course, Harper wasn't finished, because 2 days after that peaceful night, I got a call from Matthew, and this time, his voice shook. She showed up at the school. I stopped breathing. What? Lunch hour. She wasn't on the pickup list. She brought flowers. Said she was taking Lizzie to the dentist. And the school let her? Number they called me. And CPS. She's gone now. But Lizzie saw her. Said she was crying and begging her to come home where she belongs. My stomach dropped. I looked over at the empty scrapbook page I'd saved for next week. For something happy. Not anymore. The storm wasn't over. It was regrouping. And this time I wasn't waiting for it to hit me. I was going to walk straight into it, with truth as my sword, and Lizzie as the reason I wouldn't flinch. It happened in a grocery store, of all places. The damn frozen foods aisle. I was grabbing waffles for Lizzie. She's on this weird ego kick lately. Insists they taste better than the organic kind. And I turned around, and there she was. Harper, hair a mess, eyes puffy, no makeup, still wearing that beige trench coat she used to strut around in like she owned the world. Only now, she looked like it was crumbling under her feet. We stared at each other for what felt like a lifetime. She was holding a box of frozen peas, like that mattered.